In this part, I would like to further introduce my Horn of Sounds project. I use different mouthpiece adapters for my soprano saxophone to create different sounds. It's not only about different sounds, but also taking different roles with the instruments, like actors take different roles in a theater play. For my saxophone, I develop what I call the circle of sounds. And basically, I go from an outer ring, which I call the circle of intuitive culture, to an inner circle based on formalized culture. The formalized culture is characterized by its rule-based setting, while the intuitive culture is something that we do intuitively, automatically, or one could say also with embodied knowledge. This approach is based on historical development. So the circle of intuitive culture tries to go back to what we did in terms of music before we developed the music culture. And then, of course, at some point, we have our medieval theory, and here it is based on the four classic elements: air, water, fire, and earth. And I associated four early instrument types with it. The air corresponds to the flute, the bawu corresponds to water, the bawu is a Chinese free-reed instrument, the didgeridoo from Australia is connected to the earth, and the Chalumeau, which is basically an early single-reed instrument, is connected to fire. Now we can go to the next inner circle, where I have another four instrument types. Characteristic for all those instruments is that these instrument adapters can be played chromatically over a range of at least 2 octaves. On the top left, I have the narrow tip saxophone mouthpiece. The narrow tip with a hard reed leads to very dry sound without many overtones. The tone quality doesn't change much, so you can really focus on the tonal changes that you play with this mouthpiece. An opposite to this instrument is the wide tip saxophone mouthpiece. In my case, I use a mouthpiece with an extreme tip opening, an Auto-Link 12-star metal mouthpiece. It's very overtone rich, even though it still has a dark full tone. And what is really nice is that with lip pressure you can change between the different overtone states. It's very easy on this instrument, for example, to play in the altissimo range. I try to have a direct tone on this instrument without any vibrato. My Cornett mouthpiece is the only brass instrument in this family. The saxophone has a very wide bore, which I compensate with a very small mouthpiece from a Renaissance cornet instrument. The last instrument of the quartet is my soprano saxophone with a bassoon mouthpiece. It has a very dark tone that does not remind you much of a soprano type instrument. The most inner point of my circle of sounds is my standard saxophone mouthpiece, a Yamaha custom with a tip opening of 6. It represents the formalized culture that we have developed from the 19th century on by trying to develop balanced instruments that could be played fully chromatically.